So welcome to URBONUS podcast. I'm Donatas URBONUS and I'm joined by my colleague from basketnews.com, Oratio Kauki. Oratio, what's up?
I'm doing fine, Donatas. Happy to be back with this version of the podcast, and I believe that we have some very interesting topics for today.
Yeah, in recent weeks, our focus was on the Olympic Games. We had many Lithuanian podcasts. Also, we had some English roundtables after every round in Tokyo. But when Urbonus is with Oratio, that means that we are here to talk about the free agency things. So we cannot ignore the fact that NBA free agency started, that there is still not some, big uncertainty about the upcoming CBA season. So we are here today to discuss EuroLeague and CBA markets, and specifically top 10 EuroLeague market players with a potential to hit the NBA free agency, and also 10 most intriguing players coming from the CBA, which could land either to NBA, EuroLeague, or other markets. So to begin with, Orazio, can you tell me what kind of information you have about the next CBA season, if there will be foreign players involved during the season, and what's going on with coronavirus cases increasing again in China?
Yeah. The last update that I received was, let's say, at the end of July, when there was this meeting of the Chinese Basketball League. All the teams, the majority of the teams voted for, let's say, a classic format of the regular season with home and away games, but without foreign players. While other teams, let's say the bigger clubs of the CBA, the teams that usually have the bigger budget, 5 out of 20 teams, they voted to have foreign players on the rosters, but to play in a bubble environment, just like the NBA did back in Orlando. There hasn't been a final decision yet on how to start the season, but most likely, with the increase of the cases in China, because the number are rising a little bit again in China after several weeks without many cases. I believe that it's going to be difficult to see the foreign players in the CBA, especially at the beginning of the season. Maybe with the season starting and progressing, there will be some room to have some foreign players. But at the start of the season, I think it's unlikely that foreign players will be there.
Yeah, I talked to some, let's say, participants of CBA, and they also told that they kind of feel like it's leaning towards the scenario where there won't be imports, at least, as you said, in the beginning of the season. And it's crazy, actually, when we talk about the CBA, the main idea of not allowing foreign players to come to play in the league was that many of CBA teams had some financial problems. And we never thought that China teams might have some, money issues. But the thing is that many of these teams are sponsored by some very rich personalities, very rich guys, and some of their business weren't affected by coronavirus, but most of them had, let's say, revenue decrease by 50%, even more. So that's a significant difference. So that's one of the problems which CBA is facing. Also, with coronavirus cases rising, there's a problem with fans coming to the arena because a lot of money is coming, from ticketing and stuff. So these are two main issues China CBA league is facing right now.
Yeah, exactly. So most likely there won't be any foreign players at the start of the season. But to begin analyzing the article that I wrote for basketnews.com, as you mentioned, I wrote a list of 10 of the most intriguing players that can become available considering that the CBA will probably won't have foreign players at the beginning of the season. I started my list with a player that is well known in Europe because he has already played there. I'm talking about Darius Adams. He's now 32 year old. He has been in China now for several seasons. Since his arrival in the CBA, he averaged at least 30 points per game in every season. He won the scoring champion title in 2018, and he also won the Chinese League in 2017 with the Xinjiang Flying Tigers. He spent then these past 2 seasons with the Qingdao Eagles, and he was still one of the best scorers in the league. So for me, he is probably right now the best player that can come out of the CBA. Of course, at this point of the summer, it's not easy, to find a spot for him, especially in a EuroLeague club, because most of the teams, they already have their roster set for the next season. And Adams is a player that has been making very good money in China. So unless he decides to take a certain type of pay cut, it's not going to be easy to see him in a European team. But I believe there is also an additional factor that can be useful for him, the fact that he has the Bulgarian passport. So that makes him more easy to get on the market, because you don't need to register him as a foreign player, but you can have him as a European guy. But again, as of right now, I don't see many available spots for him in Europe. But of course, a player like him could definitely help some top teams.
Yeah, I'm on his Twitter profile, and a month and a half ago he tweeted, "If I come back to Europe, which jersey could you see me in?"
Yeah,
that's a great tweet, and there were so many fans responding, like Panathinaikos, Baskonia. I see that Augusto Lima, the player of Murcia, he's inviting him to join Murcia. Also, David Logan replied. So Malcolm Delaney, Darius Adams is a great guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Another player that I mentioned in the article, and this I believe would be a very nice player to see in Europe, also because so far in his career he has never played in Europe, is Joseph Young. Is another one of those guys that have been dominating the Chinese league in the last few seasons. He played with the Nanjing Monkey King in the 2019-2020 season, and he was huge because in a single game he was able to score 74 points in one of the last regular season game. And of course, at the end of the season, he won the scoring title of the CBA because he averaged 38.3 points per game, with also 6.4 assists and 2.3 steals. His numbers in the Chinese league have been absolutely crazy. But of course, that is not something new, because in the Chinese league, most of the offensive load, relies on the overseas player. They have a lot of freedom. They can take a lot of shots. So that's why their numbers are so high. Before joining the Chinese league, Young spent a couple of seasons in the NBA with the Indiana Pacers, but he never found a lot of minutes with the Pacers. So that's why he decided to leave the United States and find this new way in the Chinese league. Personally, I will be very intrigued to see him playing in Europe, but just like in the situation of Adams, I don't see many open spots for him, and especially if he doesn't decide to take a pay cut.
Yeah, both Adams and both Joe Young would be a perfect fit for Žalgiris Kaunas, because they're looking for a scoring point guard. They were after Emmanuel Mudiay, so these two players
fit that picture very well. The only problem about Joe Young, as you mentioned, he never played in EuroLeague, so it will be a hard adjustment for him to become a solid starting point guard for the EuroLeague team with playoff ambitions. And he was always about himself. He's very strong individually, but the most important question is if he can involve his players and if he can be a scorer for a winning team. So that would be a interesting hard adjustment, but it would be really fun to see both Joe and Darius in the EuroLeague.
Yeah, and to continue on the list, I also mentioned another guy, and now we're talking about a different role because we're talking about a big man this time, and it's Andrew Nicholson from Canada. I think that especially the NBA fans will remember him a little bit because he spent several years in the NBA between Orlando, Washington, the Brooklyn Nets. Since he entered the Chinese Basketball League, his numbers have been incredible. And the thing that I noticed mainly was the fact that now he has become a much more consistent three-point shooter, which was something that he really wasn't when he was still playing in the NBA. He was a much more inside player. Now he has this double dimension that made him a much more dangerous player. Of course, again, his numbers in China have been huge. I think he can be a great addition for teams that are looking for a power forward, a versatile power forward with shooting, but also with his rebounding presence and his skills offensively, because he's also a very good player in the post. But just like the other two cases, to be honest, I don't see many open spots for him. And if he's not going to play in China, I believe that maybe there is more probability to see him playing in the NBA, maybe having another opportunity in the NBA. In Europe, I just don't see him finding a spot in Europe, especially now, right now, maybe with the season already started, with the season progressing, and some teams want to make another addition to change a little bit the team. But as of right now, I think it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, when I'm looking at the team needs in the EuroLeague, most of these, teams which didn't complete their roster yet, they're looking for guards. So, which is good for example, Joe Young or Darius Adams. For example, it will be interesting to see Darius Adams in CSKA Moscow if Pangos would end up in the NBA. But for bigs, the market is really closed. Personally, there's only Anadolu Efes. Right now, let's say they're looking for more like a center. And then maybe Monaco. But this is very tough market in the EuroLeague. So probably we're expecting to see him in a different place.
Yeah, and to continue with the list, other two players that I mentioned, and they've been incredible in the Chinese league. One is Jamal Franklin, as a small forward who can be basically a triple-double machine in the Chinese Basketball League. His numbers have been huge. He's also an excellent three-point shooter. He has always shot with at least 39% from three-point during his experience in China. His numbers have been crazy. Of course, he has never played in Europe before, so that's another thing that you have to consider, because Franklin is in his career so far, he has always played in the NBA or in China. He never played in Europe, so that will require a certain level of adjustment. And that's why I think it's unlikely to see him in Europe. Another guy, and that is a player that you probably know very well, is Donatas Motiejunas. Now he has been playing in China for several years. Of course, even his numbers there have been great. But the fact that he has been playing in China, I think he took some lights away from him because he hasn't been involved very much with the national team recently. And despite the fact that he's still a pretty good player and he's not that old either, I just don't think that it's going to be easy to see him in Europe. Also because in China, he has been making very, very good money.
Yeah, I heard that Monaco was interested in his situation. Also, maybe he would be a good fit for Anadolu Efes because he's very skilled. He can also stretch the floor. He had some problems with free throw shooting, which was surprisingly low. He was making free throws like less than 50%. He can rebound. He got physical. When you remember his first years, probably you remember well him in Treviso, where he was a power forward but so skinny, that the main problem for him, it looked like he's too soft for the highest level basketball. But actually now he's a real center. Of course, I'm not sure how these years in China affected the quality of the game. So for him, it would require some time to adjust for the importance of every possession, for the physicality of the league and stuff. But for sure, to be a great fit for most of the EuroLeague teams. But as far as I was hearing, that he keeps all his options open. I mean, either if it's China, probably Japan, also the NBA. Like year and a half ago or something like that, he was playing for San Antonio.
Yeah.
So he's still also on the NBA radar. So yeah, my guy Donatas is going to be very interesting to see where he's gonna land. I hope in Europe because we're really intrigued to see what can he offer for this level.
Yeah. Another player that I mentioned in the article, and that's this is something maybe for a little bit of nostalgic fans, is Miroslav Radulica, who has been, of course, a very important presence in Europe for several years, also because he has a very strong personality, is a very interesting character as a person. Now he has been playing in China for several years. His last experience in Europe was with Olympia Milan back in 2016, 2017. So now he has been playing in China for 3 or 4 years. Not a surprise, his numbers there have been crazy good. He's a double machine. Of course, with Radulica, there is also now the factor that he's not exactly a young guy anymore. He's 33 years old. When you get used to the rhythms of Chinese basketball with a shorter regular season, and with a rhythm that is definitely slower and less intense than European basketball, it's going to be difficult to adjust again to the EuroLeague basketball, for example, because the season is much longer. There is much more physicality. And for a player that has been playing in China for 3 or 4 years now, I don't think it's going to be easy to adjust immediately to the EuroLeague. To EuroLeague basketball, and I don't know how many teams can offer him the same amount of money that he's been making in China.
Yeah, Miro is so funny. I remember once, probably it was a friendly game between Lithuania and Serbia, and in the mix zone we were interviewing Mantas Kalnietis. He played with Radulica in Milano, and Radulica just video bombed the interview. And what was funny, he was saying some crazy words in Lithuanian, and it's not like just some bad words which usually foreign players got to learn, but some crazy words like badger, for example. There's such an animal like badger, and he was saying it in Lithuanian, barsukas. I mean, it's the weirdest thing which you can hear from foreign guys. So Miro would he would give a nice flavor for the EuroLeague if he would come back.
Yeah, I agree. Another player that I mentioned in the article, and this is someone who has already some European experience too, is Trey Golden. Golden has only played 1 season in China so far in his career, but it was a very, very good season for him. I believe he's a player that he shouldn't be needing like a lot of time to adapt again to the European basketball, because he has already experience. He was one of the top scorers in the Turkish league with Başakşehir. He had a great season there. He can score a lot, and this is maybe some of the guys that I think he has some chances to go back to Europe even right now, because he wasn't used to make like crazy money in Europe. He was a regular salary guy. So I believe that there is some chances. Even in Italy, he has been linked to a potential move to Virtus Bologna. Even if I don't think that right now is their number one option for that spot, because Virtus is still looking for a combo guard, who can finalize the roster, because basically the only players that they need right now is a replacement for Stefan Markovic, who has left the team. Golden, of course, is a player with different characteristic, different skill set. He's much more of a scorer than Markovic. But yeah, I believe he's probably the guy that, among the others that I mentioned in the article, is probably the guy who has more chances to come back to Europe right now.
Yeah, you can continue your list, because I see some very well-known name after Trey Golden.
Yeah, another guy that probably a lot of our listeners know very well is, of course, Jimmer Fredette. We remember him from his experience with Panathinaikos. It was kind of a little bit of a ups and downs season for him. He had some great games. I remember him exploding against Milan with 28 points. He played a fantastic game. He's a hell of a shooter, of course. But he has also some limitation that, especially at the EuroLeague level, is not simple to hide. The fact that he's not that big for a guard, he's not exactly a great defensive player, and of course he needs to have the ball in his hands for a certain amount of time to be really effective. In China, his reputation is completely different. He's kind of a leader out there. He has been playing for the Shanghai Sharks for several years. He has been the MVP of the league. He's very well known around all the country. Also because he was already kind of a cult player when he was in the NBA, when he was playing with the Sacramento Kings. I think that when they drafted him, they knew that he wasn't going to become a star, but considering the amount of hype that he was bringing with himself out of the college, it was hard not to pick him, because there was really a lot of fans about his game. Again, he has some limitations, and when it comes to his chances of playing again in Europe, I believe that he will need to take a huge pay cut to come back, especially right now in this period.
Yeah, if money wouldn't be a problem, I see him, for example, I could see him in Crvena Zvezda Belgrade, for example, because if I'm correct, they're still missing the shooting guard. Even though I'm hearing rumors about Stefan Markovic, Stefan Jovic, also both of them likely, to join Belgrade's team. I think that, Jimmer would be really nice replacement for Jordan Lloyd, because they, shared kind of the same profile on the court. So in the EuroLeague, yeah, it will be very fun to see him in Belgrade.
Yeah, and the environment, I think it will be great for him, because he has already been in a very hot environment like Panathinaikos, so there wouldn't be new for him. Last two names that I mentioned in the article, one is another player that has never played in Europe so far, is Ian Clark. He has been playing in China for the last 2 seasons. Especially the first one was really good. He was coming off 2 seasons with the New Orleans Pelicans. He has been actually pretty good player in the NBA coming off the bench. He was a very useful piece for New Orleans. Then, after the last season with New Orleans, he decided that a lot of the offers that he was getting from the NBA weren't really a good fit for him, both financially and technically. So that's why he decided to join the Chinese league, also because he got a very good financial offer. Again, this is one of the guys that I don't really see playing in Europe very soon, because of course he has no EuroLeague experience. He's coming from a very good contract. He is more used to the NBA environment, so I don't think it's very likely to see him in Europe, but who knows, maybe someone will be able to recruit him. And the last name of the list is another European veteran, a player that I believe many fans know very well, is Sonny Wims, who has been playing in Europe for several years. We remember him especially with CSKA Moscow. He has been there for 3 seasons. He was a very important player. He has been playing very good in China. Of course, he's no longer a young guy. He's 35 years old. But I think he will be a very smart addition for a couple of EuroLeague teams that want to contend for the title, because having a guy with his talent, with his experience, it will be very, very good. So I envision him as a in-season addition. Like, the season has already started. You want to add another piece that gives you more depth, more experience. I believe that Sonny Wims could do the job.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. But my only concern is that I think that he made his choice when he finally decided to play in China. He's 35, and I think that his main priority right now is to get a better paycheck, let's say to be confident about his future and stuff. So I have doubts if he would go back to the EuroLeague, although I think that, as I said, he would be a great fit for any title contender as of right now. Probably the only team which is missing a swingman or a small forward is, I would say, Alba Berlin. But so far there were some rumors about Barcelona, monitoring Gabriel Deck's situation, but Deck's camp denied the rumors for Spanish media outlets, and also from Šarūnas Jasikevičius' interview, I understood that they kind of don't have much money for this addition, for any addition actually, because Barcelona organization is having some financial troubles, so any addition is not very likely. But during the season, if CBA will be closed for the imports, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised to see him here in the EuroLeague.
As you said, the Barcelona situation is really difficult right now. Everyone saw what happened last night with Lionel Messi, and now the old social media world is going crazy because they basically had an agreement to extend the contract, but La Liga is putting a lot of financial limitation to Barcelona, so they can't really sign him right now. And I believe that some of those troubles, of course, will extend to the basketball team.
Yeah, and I'm not a big, football fan, but so far from what I saw on social media, he's going to Los Angeles Lakers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to win the title, that's the right place to do it.
Okay, so you can find Horacio's article, 10 most intriguing players coming from the CBA on basketnews.com. And now we can continue with the EuroLeague and NBA bridge. Top 10 EuroLeague market players to hit the NBA free agency, also on basketnews.com. And I will start with Kevin Pangos, for sure, probably the second hottest name on the EuroLeague market after Vasilije Micic. It's clear he's not coming back to Zenit, and it's pretty clear that he has a commitment to CSKA Moscow. But from what I'm hearing, there's, let's say, not many chances that he's gonna stay in the EuroLeague, since he has some serious NBA interest. And some of my sources are mentioning that Memphis Grizzlies might be a front runners to sign this Canadian point guard.
Yes, I was hearing the same thing about Memphis. Is the team that has probably followed him much in the last few weeks, and from what I understand, Kevin Pangos is really willing to try the NBA route, the NBA market. He wants to have a shot at the NBA, so that's why so far he hasn't accepted any offer from EuroLeague teams, because of course Zenit tried to extend him. It was a pretty good offer, a 2-year deal that he was worth around 2.5 million. So it was a really good offer, but he decided to turn that down. There is, of course, a big offer from CSKA Moscow, which is around 3 million euros for 2 seasons. But even in that situation, he's still waiting for the NBA offer to develop, to see what he can get in the NBA market. So yeah, my belief is that in the end he will join the NBA.
Yeah, I saw Kevin playing in Summer League a few years ago, probably twice in the Summer League, and he was doing really good job. He had a great time in Vegas, so I think I actually see him being as a solid backup point guard for the NBA teams. And there's another solid backup guard for the NBA teams on my list. It's Mike James, who has probably one of the most mysterious cases here, because probably officially he's still a player of CSKA Moscow. And there was a plan, Vatutin let him go to the NBA during the season after another conflict between Mike James and Itoudis. And they kind of had an agreement, to reconsider his future in Moscow if, for example, Dimitris Itoudis was leaving the team after the season. But since they extended the contract with Itoudis, Mike James will be, let's say, a free agent, and it is expected, at least from what I've heard, that he's going to stay in the NBA, mostly because he had a really good time with Brooklyn Nets last season. He averaged 7.7 points, 4.2 assists in only 18 minutes in 13 NBA games for Brooklyn. And something that it's also likely that Mike James might continue with Brooklyn Nets, despite the fact that they declined the qualifying offer for James. So probably I saw that he's doing a good time. He's having a good time in Portland. I think it's one of the, let's say, kind of summer tournaments. He's scoring like 40 points per game, making crazy dunks, good game-winning shots and stuff like that. So I believe that his place is overseas.
Yeah, I believe that he's going to stay in the NBA. As you said, he had a pretty good stint with the Brooklyn Nets. He was positive coming off the bench. And I think if he's getting used to that kind of role, he can be actually a very nice player for several NBA teams, because a guy like him coming off the bench, with his talent, with his scoring abilities, and also as a passer, I think that most of the times we underrated him a little bit as a passer, but he's a great assist man too. So yeah, I think his destiny is gonna be still in the NBA, also because even if the deal with CSKA Moscow is in some ways is still in place, there is no room for him with Itoudis still on the bench. So yeah, I believe that he's gonna stay in the NBA also for next season.
Another great guard on my list is Shane Larkin, but mostly I put him on the list mostly because he has NBA out in his contract, even though it is not expected that he's gonna leave Anadolu Efes. Because first of all, he has a really good salary over there. It was reported last year that his contract might be worth around $4 million per year. And I was told that he will leave for the NBA only if he gonna get really solid NBA offer. And I'm not sure if NBA teams are ready, to throw out a lot of money for Shane Larkin. Although I'm not disappointed at all, because it's a pleasure to have such a guy like him in the EuroLeague. And to continue with Shane's situation, like the players who have NBA out clause, I can also include Shavon Shields on that list. Ethan Lundberg, Peria Henry, Yanis Papapetru, Rodion Skuruks, who signed with Partizan. But again, it's not likely that these players will leave Europe.
Yeah, I believe that especially with the Larkin situation, it will require like a really, really big offer from the NBA to leave Anadolu, because, as you said, he's making very good money in Turkey. He's a key player for the team, and that's another thing. Like he's not the kind of player that is going to go back to the NBA to be, let's say, the third point guard in the roster. That's not going to happen. So I don't see many NBA teams that can offer him a very good role, with minutes and with responsibilities. It's going to be difficult. And all the other guys that you mentioned, I also heard about NBA interest for Sheldon Shields, but I don't think it's going to happen this summer. Maybe next summer there will be more chances, especially for Shields, because his contract also is gonna end with Milan. But yeah, I believe that there might be more movement next summer and not this one.
Yeah, another guy on my list actually signed an NBA deal. It's Jock Landale, who signed with San Antonio Spurs. It's a 2-year deal, and I was a bit surprised, and I think that many European basketball people were also surprised too, and I'm talking about GMs, EuroLeague clubs and stuff, because there wasn't much belief that Jock Landale is a player of NBA guaranteed contract. I mean, he was getting 2-way deals, but it was not what he was looking for. But Jock Landale was the guy who was like dreaming about the NBA like a kid, and some of the teams were let's say smiling because of his hopes, because they just didn't believe that he's the NBA player right now. And he refused big offers from Olympiacos in the beginning of the summer. Later, Anadolu Efes stepped in, and they offered something close to 1 million euros. And I mean, EuroLeague champs giving you that kind of money, which is huge. But he still, I heard that he was committed to Anadolu Efes, but they agreed, letting him testing NBA market, and that's why Anadolu Efes didn't announce this deal officially, because they wanted to wait if he gonna sign the NBA deal, and it actually happened. And Jock Landale made huge sacrifices for this NBA deal. We can remember the last season when he parted ways with Žalgiris Kaunas, and he actually had to pay a big amount of the buyout for Žalgiris from his own pocket, and he ended up signing in Australia, not the NBA. And many people thought that it's a huge mistake by Landale, by his agents. But now we can see, that guy fulfilled his dream, and it's exciting because San Antonio Spurs is very well known as an organization who which is a good fit for, let's say, okay, Jock is Australian, but for international players.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he found the right team for him. Also because right now San Antonio is a little bit in a rebuilding situation. They are trying to build a new cycle. They have a lot of young players. And I think in the front court, he will have some minutes. He will find his space. As you said, that was always his intention. In the season he played in Australia, I remember several interviews in which he said, "Listen, I know that I am an NBA player. I believe that other guys had a chance before me, even if they are not better than me." So he was very, very willing to text and explore the NBA market. He really wanted to go there. As you said, he turned down several offers. At the beginning of the summer, there was strong interest from Olympiacos. Then there was this deal with Efes. But as far as I know, for him, that was only a kind of an insurance policy. If I don't get anything from the NBA, at least I have a very good offer from Europe. But his number one option was always the NBA. He was very, very convinced that this was the summer to join the NBA, and in the end he was lucky, to find a deal and to find it also in a good environment, because again, I believe that in San Antonio he's gonna have minutes, he's gonna play, he's gonna have some space, and of course that's great news for him.
Yeah, Rokas Giedraitis and his camp also think that this is the summer. This is the summer to make the NBA and to sign a guaranteed deal. Rokas has a contract with Baskonia, which runs through 2023. And what is interesting that Giedraitis was always getting these two-way deals, these summer league invitations in past 2 seasons, even when he played for Alba Berlin, for example. But he was so focused about, making his mark in the EuroLeague that he, turned all of them down. But this time I'm hearing that his camp really believes that they can sign him to a guaranteed deal. And the problem is that he has a buyout clause, which is around 1 million euros. But yeah, there's a huge belief, and it's going to be very interesting to see, what will happen in the upcoming weeks. And for me, it seems like that Baskonia kind of, they were ready for this departure. I mean, they signed Simone Fontecchio, who had great Olympic games, and it seems like he could already make a huge impact on Baskonia the next season, and they kind of share the same position. So if Giedraitis is gone, I mean, they have a right guy in place.
Yeah, also because I've been hearing about this possibility since March, April. So there were already rumors about him potentially going to the NBA, having NBA interest, and as you said, his agents have been pretty active in finding the right team for him, the right offer. Of course, there's gonna be the need to pay the buyout, but a team can contribute to 775k extent. So with €1 million buyout, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a little bit easier. But yeah, there is definitely interest for him, and yeah, I also believe that Baskonia in some ways already prepared to lose him. Also because unfortunately for Baskonia, they are used to this kind of situation. I mean, they lost so many players over the years because of NBA deals, because of deals with, let's say, bigger EuroLeague teams with bigger budgets and everything. Last season, they lost Vildosa right before the playoffs. So in some ways, they already have a lot of experience in this environment.
Yeah, that's kind of their identity, to be a good platform for the EuroLeague players to make the jump to the NBA. And okay, they kind of let's say we can say that they lost these players, but also they received the right amount of money for this reward. So I think that Baskonia will be okay, and we already see that they have interesting players on the roster to make the NBA in the future. Nigel Hayes is another guy on my list, and he was really getting enough attention from the EuroLeague teams. Lately, he was rumored to be on Panathinaikos' radar from the beginning of the free agency. Also, Unix Kazan was the last team who was rumored to be interested in Nigel Hayes. But the thing about Nigel is that he is desperate to get back to the NBA because he had offer from Žalgiris to sign an extension, let's say in February. But he rejected it, and his mind was clear that he wants to go back. He had a nice workout with the Boston Celtics. He was always getting that interest from the NBA during the season, and I'm not sure if it's going to be a guaranteed contract or two-way deal, but I don't expect to see Nigel Hayes coming back to the EuroLeague.
Yeah, I agree. He's not coming back. He has been very, very, with his mind clear about the possibility of going back to the NBA. Also because, being in the United States, he can be much more closer to his family. So that's his decision. I I heard that potentially might get like a partially guaranteed deal in the NBA. So it's probably not going to be fully guaranteed, but it's going to be some guarantee in it. And yeah, despite the interest from EuroLeague clubs, I think his mind is already set on returning to the NBA and to the United States.
Yeah, the same with Tyler Dorsey, a former Maccabi Tel Aviv player. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, he's drawing interest from several NBA teams, and he's not expected to come back to Europe. Ishmael Wainwright, another guy on my list, already agreed on a 2-year deal with the Toronto Raptors. That was the team he was linked from the last season. Actually, he had an offer from Toronto during the season when he was playing for Strasbourg. The thing was that it was only the first season guaranteed with a, let's say, team option, either to extend it or not for the next season. But the problem was Strasbourg at the moment. They didn't allow him, to leave the team, so he stayed in Strasbourg. But now he finally got what he wanted, and actually he was again targeted by the EuroLeague teams, specifically Žalgiris Kaunas really wanted to bring him to Kaunas, but his focus was on the NBA. Just like Isaiah Cordenia, for example. He had a great season in Nanterre. He made the first All-Euro Cup team. Žalgiris, Maccabi Tel Aviv, many other EuroLeague teams were after him because he's very athletic swingman. Very intriguing free agent, but the thing is that Brooklyn Nets own his rights, and he's expected, to sign the contract in the NBA already. The only guy who's still, not clear about his future is Jalen Smith. He's another interesting EuroLeague another interesting guard on the EuroLeague market, since many playoff contenders wanted to have him on the roster. They still want to have him on the roster. Also, some EuroCup powerhouses has him on their radar. Jalen Smith will play for Phoenix Suns in the Summer League. He is also drawing some NBA attention. He would like to have the guaranteed deal, but for so far it looks like that, at least for now, maybe two-way offer is much more, let's say, the most likely scenario for him. So it's still not clear yet if we will see him in the NBA or the EuroLeague the next season. Horacio, do you have anything to add about any of these guys?
About Smith, there have been, of course, a lot of interest from EuroLeague. There was Maccabi Tel Aviv interest. There was interest also, I believe, from Žalgiris. Because he has been very, very good in Germany. Last summer, also, Virtus Bologna tried to sign him, but he decided to stay in Germany. So I believe that he has some chances of getting an NBA deal. He also had a workout with the Philadelphia 76ers before joining the Suns in the Summer League. But as you said, probably it's more likely that he will land like a two-way contract or something like that. And also the same thing for Cordenia. I believe that in the end is gonna land with the Brooklyn Nets because his NBA rights are owned by Brooklyn. For Cordenia, he has been very, very particular situation because there were so many EuroLeague teams that wanted him. So many. The Spanish teams, Valencia, Barcelona, Real Madrid, they all made some inquiries about him. Maccabi Tel Aviv really, really wanted him. But a lot of teams understood quickly that he was going to wait for the NBA. So in order to sign him, they would need to wait at least until the end of August. And many teams, they were just not willing to wait so much for that. Even Milan asked for the player, but they realized that he was going to wait for the NBA, and so they moved on to other targets.
So yeah, you can find our top 10s on basketnews.com. What is exciting that usually now we're having this pod on 6th of August. Usually the market here in Europe is closed. It was usually more or less closed in the NBA in previous seasons. But now, after the COVID break, the free agency was postponed from the beginning of July to the beginning of August, and it's a complete game changer. So even if we are in the beginning of August, we have we're gonna watch and follow some very exciting free agency moves both in the EuroLeague and both in the NBA. So as I said, this summer is so intense. There's so much basketball happening. There's so much other stuff happening. So we're just gonna wait and see what will happen.
Yeah, as you said, this summer is a little bit different because the start of the NBA free agency is a little bit unusual. Is not in August usually, but of course because of the delays due to COVID, this summer is going to be a little bit different. But it's probably also, hopefully, is going to be the last time that it's going to be like that, because starting from the next season, NBA should be back on its regular schedule, and so that will take away some conflicts from the European and the NBA market.
Yeah, so this is it. Oratio Kauki, Donatas Urbonas. Thanks a lot for your attention, and you guys can follow us on Basket News channel on YouTube, also URBONUS podcast on Spotify, and of course, basketnews.com.